Welcome friends to the 2023 VW Tiguan. This is going to be a quick video going over what's new for 2023 and if the Tiguan is going to be right for you and your family. Okay, let's first break down the various trim levels here. We have the base S model, then we step up to the SE, then we have the SE R line, and we have the vehicle that we are driving here, the SEL R line. That's the fully loaded model. This is going to run you around $39,000 with destination. However, for most families, I think just getting the SE model with the 4Motion all-wheel drive, I think that should be pretty excellent for most. And on the screen here, I'm going to have all the various changes and the differences in what you get with each trim level. I'll have all of that on the screen here for you to check out. And let's talk about what's new for 2023. There's really only two things. With the SE R line trim level, you get new 19-inch wheels, and you also get, for 2023, all of the USB-C ports throughout the Tiguan. It can now charge at up to 45 watts. So these are your two changes for 2023. The reason why there's not too many changes is because 2022 was the model year where this Tiguan got refreshed. So if you want to see my detailed thoughts on the 2022 Tiguan, I'll have that on the end screen, in the description box, and in the pinned comment, so you can check that out after you're done watching this video. Now, is the Tiguan right for you and your family? Well, if you love to drive and you want to have a ton of space, both in terms of the rear legroom and the trunk space, then the Tiguan is going to be perfect for you, because this vehicle, it genuinely drives great. Easily top tier, top level handling characteristics with this Tiguan. I mean, the vehicle just feels so planted when you take these corners. Very smooth, and keep in mind, this is with the 4Motion. So one of the things I like is when you go with the fully loaded SEL R-Line model like you see here, you do get the 4Motion all-wheel drive as standard. But with the other trim levels, you can get the vehicle just as a front-wheel drive Tiguan, which I don't really recommend. I think going with the 4Motion, that's pretty ideal for an SUV product, right? So handling is great, but one of the things you have to keep in mind is, to get this really excellent handling prowess, they did have to stiffen up the suspension just a tad. So especially with these 20-inch wheels that you get with the fully loaded model, like you see here, it does look amazing, but I will say it's going to translate some of those smaller jittery bumps into the cabin just a little bit more. It doesn't really affect the front seats here as much. It's more so the rear occupants. So if you have like infants in the back, right, car seats, things of that nature, that's not going to be quite as ideal. So that's why I think the SE model is going to be perfect for most families. It's going to come with those 18-inch wheels, and that should help the vehicle ride a little bit smoother. And also, well, you can get the base model S, which does also come with some decent options, you know, so even though it's base, it's not really that bad. But that base model will come with 17-inch wheels, so that's the best riding version of the Tiguan. And you know, I was reading through the VW press releases and everything I could find, and there doesn't seem to be any evidence that these R-Line models come with stiffer suspension to help it handle better. Every Tiguan should come with the same suspension. They should all drive the same. So this R-Line stuff, it should all be purely cosmetic. And even the ride quality, it's not terrible for what it is. You just need to understand that it's just a little bit tuned to be on the slightly more stiffer side of things, more so than, you know, riding like a cloud, if you will. And I don't mind that. You know, that's just what you have to do to make a vehicle like this handle great. So I think we've covered that plenty. You also have some drive modes that you can play with. So you put the vehicle in the sport mode. However, it can be a bit clumsy in the sport mode, I've noticed, especially with the gear changes. Sometimes it just hangs on to the gears a little bit too much. It's a little bit too aggressive at times. But what some people might like is the fact that the steering gets really heavy. So if you enjoy that sensation, but you don't quite like the weird, overly aggressive gear changes, then you can actually put the vehicle into a custom mode, so you can have the vehicle in its regular settings, but you can enjoy the really stiff steering if that's what you enjoy. So it does have a custom mode, so that's great. Now the engine, 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. producing 184 horsepower, 224 pounds-feet of torque. Those numbers don't seem that great on paper, but one of the things I really like about VW is the fact that all of their engines seem to really hit above its numbers, really. I think Car and Driver tested this thing to do 0 to 60 in like 9 seconds, but it feels so much quicker than that. In the real world, the way they have the torque curve tuned along with this 8-speed automatic transmission, something about it just feels so effortless. The way it just surges off. You always have effortless power for street driving. Now out on the highway, it could require a little bit more punch, but that seems to be the case with a lot of turbo 4-cylinders. So for everyday driving, I think the engine is pretty excellent. I will say, in city driving, the 8-speed automatic transmission, it can feel just a tad bit jumpy, once you're at a red light and it turns green. It does have a tendency to, kind of make your passengers, do one of these, right? Kind of knock yourself up against the headrest. So some of those features, could be a little bit smoother, a little bit more ironed out and polished, but for the most part, 8-speed does a very good job in shifting. I don't mind it. The 4-cylinder seems to be pretty smooth in most applications. That's also fine. I'm not a huge fan of the auto stop start. That could be a little bit better, so I just turned that off. There's a button here to do that. Other aspects of driving this Tiguan, it's actually very quiet. There's not a whole lot of wind noise, despite them using kind of thinner glass here. It's not double pane or anything like that, like you might get in some of the Mazda products. So that's very impressive. Not a lot of wind noise, even at higher speeds, but there is a little bit more tire noise and things of that nature coming through at higher speeds. Around town, it's fine, but out on the highway, you might get a little bit more road noise or tire noise, if you will. So that's another little aspect about this vehicle that I noticed. But overall, this is actually a pretty great package. Once again, driving this, that's the highlight. It is easily one of the top tier, best handling SUVs in its class. Feels way more premium to drive than really anything else, quite frankly. Yeah, really nice polished driving demeanor. So if you love to drive, that's one of the huge aspects about the Tiguan that sets it apart from the competition. Like things like the RAV4s, the CR-Vs, the CX-5 Mazdas, Chevy Equinox, things of that nature. That's what this vehicle competes with. Now, the other aspect about this vehicle that many people are really going to enjoy is just how spacious it is. This VW offers a ton of rear legroom. If you enjoy that, then that can be another reason why you would put this at the top of your short list, really. You have plenty of headroom. I mean, just about anybody can fit in here. That's not remotely an issue. And really, it's so large that they even offer you an optional third row, but that's not really that great. That's going to be pretty tight. That's pretty useless. You don't really need that. This is best enjoyed as a 2-row SUV with a massive trunk. That's really the best way to utilize this. But otherwise, the overall interior layout in here, it is pretty good, very ergonomic, easy to access. A lot of people, they complain about the touch haptic buttons. That's not really an issue for me. For the most part, VW did a very good job with the touch haptic buttons. It's not as bad as how most people would describe it. It's not my most favorite thing, obviously, but not terrible. The touch screen, it looks a little bit dated, but fortunately, they did give you Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and it's wireless here, which is great. You also get a wireless charging pad. Unfortunately, my iPhone 13 Pro Max never seems to charge properly on that wireless charging pad, but it is there nevertheless. And really, despite this vehicle trying to give off a more premium vibe, which it does, I mean, it feels a little bit more upscale, but I will say the interior space, it does feel a little bit more plastic in here. I wish they would have improved that as well. They could have taken a page out of Mazda's book or even some of the new Honda products, right? They do a much better job of giving you a premium experience, quote unquote, for the regular car segment. So hopefully, when the VW products get redesigned, they can kind of mimic that a little bit more. But overall, the interior is functional. Everything works in here. It's not really a problem. The learning curve in here, it's not terrible. Let's just put it that way. The seats are on the stiffer side. However, they are very comfortable and very supportive. So even on a long trip, it didn't really bother me. Your lumbar support is decent. And overall, the Tiguan is just a great looking vehicle. A lot of people, especially this SEL R-Line model, a lot of people are taking notice to it. They like this blue color. The wheels look great. So it's just a nice, attractive looking vehicle. It's got that going on for it. And finally, the real world fuel economy in this is also pretty excellent. You know, it gets 21 mpg in the city, 28 out on the highway, but you can absolutely just blitz those numbers. You can get way better fuel economy in the real world. It's another aspect about these vehicles I really like. And overall, it's just a great vehicle that I would consider leasing more so than buying. I think when I did a leasing calculation on this, it was like $620 a month for a fully loaded $39,000 Tiguan like you see here, which is pricey, but you know, the leasing prices seem to have gone up for pretty much every vehicle. The interest rates, they're so high now that, you know, every vehicle is kind of suffering from that. So there's not too many good lease deals out there. But that's just kind of what I saw as a rough estimate, if you will. And also you want something that's safe, right? IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus has a lot of great attributes going on here. If you want to take advantage of it, definitely put it on your short list. Definitely test drive it, consider it. But that's going to be my quick review regarding this 2023 Tiguan SEL R-Line trim. Once again, if you want to see my detailed thoughts on the 2022 model, it will be on the end screen here. Click on it and I will see you there.